Hey, friends, and welcome to Lucy Smiles, the Living Room podcast. I am your host, Diane Lozo, also known as Lucy Smiles. And I am sincerely honored today to be having a real and raw, fun, girly conversation with my dear friend, the beautiful, inside and out, Alli Mang. How are you today? Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. It is my honor to be here. I'm just thrilled. Thank you for inviting me. This is going to be so much fun.
It's gonna be too much fun. Let's be honest. And I'm just looking at your beautiful backyard. So we'll have to talk about where you are in the world. We know you're in Canada, so you are all the way in Canada, and I am here in Mazatlan, Mexico. But we are just sharing the living room space, and living room for me, for my audience to really understand is the living room is really a place where we are creating a space to live. And today I feel truly, truly excited to have this conversation with you, Alli, and to be able to dive into our hearts, dive into our own inner essence, and to really share that with the world. Before we get started with Alli and our amazing conversation, just a little bit about Alli Mang. Alli Mang is a seasoned industry expert with over 40 years of experience in publishing. I'm not sure how that's possible. Publishing, media, and communications. As the COO of Fourth Quarter Press Publishing, she helps authors build lasting legacies through powerful storytelling. With a successful track record, including generating over 60 million in global sales and producing award-winning musicals, Alli's work extends far beyond books. As an accomplished 4-time best-selling author, Alli has written how-to books on selling, and I do have your books, as well as inspirational guides on loss and grief. I know we will be tapping into that. Also, she has spent the last decade helping aspiring authors craft compelling memoirs and business books while providing technical writing expertise in the healthcare sector. Alli's leadership and passion for storytelling are further reflected in her global initiatives, such as the ebook Finding the Light, which brought together over 80 contributors to share their strategies for resilience during the pandemic. Alli's recent collaboration with Grammy-winning drummer John J.R. Robinson produced a best-selling memoir that highlights their powerful partnership. With her unique combination of corporate insight and spiritual wisdom, Alli helps clients to transform their personal narratives into impactful stories that resonate with audiences worldwide. Whether guiding authors or coaching media training, she brings authenticity for sure and strategy expertise to every project. Alli, I'm so grateful, and I think there's a project in the making. I don't know. Let's see what unfolds from this conversation today. So welcome. I'm so excited.
I'm
Yay.
absolutely thrilled. I know you're going to set the intention.
Ooh,
So may I just jump ahead before you do
please.
that?
I would love
I'd
you
love
to.
to share my most favorite quote. And for me, this is what our conversation will be about. Although we're going to go all over, I'm quite sure. Because that's just what we do.
I know.
I've been a performer, as you said, in that beautiful, and thank you for that gorgeous bio. You sort of put so much together, and I so appreciate it. It's funny sitting here and listening and going, have I done all? What?
Mhm.
Because in life, we just do. And for me, I don't always sit in it and see what it is and find the umbilical cord of how to move forward from the past.
Yeah.
My favorite quote, Truman Capote. My 2 favorite days are the 2 most important days of your life. The day you were born and the day you find out why.
Oh. Woo, already.
The stage is yours, darling. Go
Oh
for
my
it.
God. Where do I go from here? Oh my gosh. I've heard that quote before, and it's always hit me in the heart. And for some reason, it's just, as you and I shared even just yesterday, catching up, the conversation that we had and what we decided was important to bring to this stage, if you will, whatever you want to call this, the space is really just that. And I'm excited for you to tap into, just a little bit of what you shared yesterday. We've known each other for well over, I don't know, 8 years, I think. And, one of the things that I remember when I first met you was, wow, this woman is so alive. you were so alive. And, to tap into what we're going to tap into today is just, I believe, and I'm hoping, a reminder for other people of what it means to be alive, what it means to still have a breath. And with that breath, to be able to share our insights and our fears and our experiences, our struggles, in an empowering way so that we can bring that energy to other people so that they don't feel alone. So I'm so grateful for that you shared that. And that really touched me. What I would love to do, what I now do on the Lucy Smiles Living Room podcast, is I love to set an intention. I do have a beautiful card deck that I will put in the show notes from Autumn Sky, who's this magical artist. And it always likes to set the tone. So I'm going to let you tell me when, and sometimes it just flies out and we'll go with it. So it's all yours. You let me know when you want me to let it fly out or whatever.
Let it fly out.
Okay. Ooh, wow. Oh my gosh. Beautiful. Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah, I kind of am.
Birth, death, rebirth. Alli, I can't. What did we even talk about? This is why life is so much fun. So let me share this with you. Birth, death, rebirth. Honor natural cycles, balance giving and receiving. Respect nature's intelligence. You are in rhythm with life. Move your body, dance. We literally talked about the rebirth and the death of the old and the rebirth of the new. So I am so honored to have you here today, and also to have you say yes to sitting with me on a beautiful morning to share your story, share your wisdom, and really just bring about what that could look like. So Alli, one thing that that I didn't share on your intro and on your bio is also just how you have moved your body in your life as well too. Very into fitness, very into athletics, very into, creating a strong space for this vessel that you hold your spirit in. And so I would love to maybe just go back wherever you feel would be the best place to start. Is where did you find yourself, maybe that moment where you were witnessing there's something more to life than maybe that, I don't want to say roller coaster, but I know there's a moment in people's lives where they have that moment of just aha or awareness. There's a different level of witnessing what life is. Do you remember a moment in that where you had seen something just kind of shift for you in your level of what life is, and maybe how that would have sparked all of this beautiful offering that you have given the world, whether it's music, whether it's writing, whether it's mentoring? Is there something that sparked that for you?
There are so many. You mentioned athletics at the beginning,
Mhm.
which you're right. It's been a big part of my life. But I think we'll get to what I believe is why we're chatting and why we reached out and connected literally as if it was synchronized and planned.
Yeah.
Is that I've come to a point in my life, I'm 58 years old, and I lost my mom in 99 to cancer. My sister, 2006, to suicide. And my dad, 3 years ago now, to cancer. As you said, I wrote a book about the passing of my mom and my sister called My Force of Life. But as I've moved through, I have found, as we all do, we still have to function as a performer, being on stage and selling product all over the world, as a live guest expert, where I have to authentically connect with people and sell towels, for heaven's sakes, that they can go to the corner store and buy.
Yeah.
But they choose to buy from me. Now, it's not just me, it's the whole team, of course, but I'm sort of the last line of defense. And I bring that up only that there is a mask that is put on when we have to get out there, whether it's in the boardroom or on stage or just proofreading a book. We have to put on our cloak of many colors. It's a cloak to protect. It's a cloak to stay away. Just, I almost think of it as the nurse's cap many, many decades ago when the nurses had a
Oh my
starch
gosh. Yes.
dress and a cap. And my
Yeah.
mom was a nurse, and she said when I put that cap on, I'd stepped into a different world, a different expression.
Mhm.
So back to those very common, at my age particularly, experiences of loss to your loved ones. And in my case, my entire family. So walking through, doing my best, having a wonderful time and finding new, but still very blocked, still very protected, but unaware of how protected.
Mhm.
And that is the real difference. And really what I'm doing today is saying, let's chat about this while I'm still real and raw. Because
Mhm.
my thesis for this year moving forwards is, with my family all being not on this plane of thought, some people will say dead, you know, but on this plane of thought, why am I still here? And
Yeah.
that's my thesis. And then we joined.
Yeah. And then we also pulled the card for the death and rebirth. It's just so powerful. I love that, Alli, and I'll tell you why. One of the things that I've in my own heart is, and I say this often, and it's not a quote, maybe it's my quote. I don't know. Usually they're all recycled, so I won't take credit, but I will say that this resonates.
Ah, you're cute.
Could have been Louise Hay, Wayne Dyer. I don't know who it could have been, but some, it came into me, and I always say this is something that for me, and this is something like for my 20 years of writing and being honest through my writing, and you're a writer, and this is one of the, I just got chills everywhere that we've connected, is I always say, if we were there, we wouldn't be here. If we were already there, we wouldn't be here. And so there's a magic and there's a vulnerability, and there's actually a magic to being able to be open enough to share our story while we're in it. And not from a place of victim, not from a place of woe is me, but from a place of, wow, if this is what I'm going through, maybe we can connect hearts and see, so that we can actually lift each other up. And so when you said that, something just hit me so tightly in my heart, is that you want to be able to move through this and to share it and to speak of it. And also that is healing, right? And so being able to say, I have sadness in my body, and I'm experiencing this in my life right now. You don't have to wait and say, okay, am I ready to now go back and start talking about it? How about now? And I love that you said that. Why am I still here with your family, having been on a different realm, and you're still here? There's something special about that
Mhm.
in your calling of what it is that you're meant to be doing. And we don't have to know. We don't have to have all the answers. Just having that level of awareness, I think, is just the answers come when we're in that receptive mode. Right. So it's a beautiful witness to hear you say that. And it's very humbling. And it also, I think, allows that, and not that we need to permit people, but there is a sense of permission for other people to say, okay, I'm okay now. Right. I'm okay right now. So it's beautiful.
Well, thank you. And thank you for recognizing that. And the roller coaster that we may be on in the next little
Yeah.
while emotionally, this is part of it. Um, you know, here's where, when you said that, when do we get going and stuff, I think that there are levels of, okay, now I'm ready.
Mhm.
And then you go on, because we are survivors. Women, particularly, are warriors. We've been created that way. We've been created to be able to nurse our babies, feed our babies, protect our house, nurture, doing 1,000 things. And that isn't about I can. That's who we
Mhm.
are. The
Yeah.
feminine divinity, that's part of the beauty of us, as recognized by Alli in this pink fabulous whatever, and you and your gorgeous black. Is it black
It's
and
actually navy blue. You can't tell me perhaps, but yeah, it's navy blue. It's a
wait a
dark
minute.
blue.
I'll be able to tell. I'm 58. Oh, fabulous.
All of a sudden the lights are on.
The lights go on.
So I would love to ask you, when we talk about that, because I do believe in that. I believe in the divine feminine. I believe in the divine masculine. And when I think about, say, we'll just touch on showcasing one of your, career paths of, working within the selling realm, right? I would love to go into that because when we're in our feminine energy and as an entrepreneur and business owner as well, working globally, we have this role we have put on masculine energy wise. But there's that pull. And so we're in our masculine energy, creative feminine energy with business, and then we come back into the home, whether we have children or not. And then we just continue to like kind of put those different hats on. And it's a dance. There's a dance that has to happen for us to maneuver those roles that we're playing simultaneously. Sometimes we've got the masculine and the feminine in that. Can you maybe is there any experience for you when you think about when you were working with the 60 million global sales with the platform that you were using and touch on that? Did you find yourself learning more about yourself through masculine energy that you may have to bring onto the stage within that? Or did you feel that you were able to dance with both? What part did you feel helped you to become successful in that?
Hmm. Great question. Very complex.
Mhm.
I think that I would say in that was a while ago. That was
Yeah.
my last year was 2018.
Mm.
2018. It's a long time ago, like things, but I know time is now and past and future time is together. So,
Yeah.
but I do know that role for me combined all of my talents. So
Mhm.
I was an inside sales rep that I sold steel for a number of years.
Wow.
Um, I was a nurse's assistant, was my favorite job of all with palliative care, men and women. And there was one lady, she was 107, and it was just such a dignified way and environment. And I was the only one out of all the nurses assistant in the entire facility who could do her French braids. So
Oh,
Mrs. Shook, it was that, like I would come on duty and they go, Mrs. Shook needs her hair done. And I'd be, yes.
oh, 107. Wow, there's the
I
story.
know. Oh, she's so you'd walk into her room and she couldn't see. She didn't need to see, but she had sight, but she couldn't see. You'd walk into the room and you go quietly, she may be sleeping. We're off on a tangent, but I'm going to come back. I rest
No,
assured.
don't worry. No tangents. It's all good.
Um, and she would say, come here and sit down in front of me. Like just sometimes. So you
Yeah.
wouldn't expect it. And well, Mrs. Shook, I just want to, no, sit. And we'd come in and I'd sit. Now, I don't know what this energy is, but we need to get rid of it right now. And she would sit me down. And she did this with some of her people, not all, but I learned so much about grounding and her deep, deep understanding of spirit and understanding of what life really is in the dimension that I'm only now. I got it then as a 20-year-old,
Wow.
and I witnessed healing as a 20-year-old. People would ask me to pray with them, for them
Ah,
as a 20-year-old because I was in that environment.
mhm.
I healed myself of acne all over my face. There are still signs of it. For a year, I put turpentine on my face
Oh my goodness.
because I was so desperate. That's what we do when we don't have the right information and we're not quite plugging into the right.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
felt that it would dry whatever. At one point, I had 40 acne like welts all over my face, right to my neck. And I was an actress, so it was kind of a doomsday. You can't go in auditions. And I remember my mom said, "Well, I think we're probably going to have to learn how to do proper makeup for you." And it was a whole thing. It was a whole thing. And so I started to pray, and Mrs. Shook was part of that healing, interestingly enough. And I had to understand about beauty and what beauty meant. And it's interesting that, what we've done today, I haven't thought of Mrs. Shook. I haven't thought about the essence of what beauty is to a woman. And as it evolves, not changes, it evolves. And now I'm 58 years old and I'm not 28 years old. And what does that mean? I will say this, once I realized, and I did a whole big research on beauty, and I'm a big wordsmith, so I love looking at all the meanings, and not on the internet. I have my big unabridged Webster's dictionary, and I
Wow.
have my J. Rodale synonym finder, which is the best. They're my two favorite books.
Mhm.
Because I find synonym finders go beyond thesaurus at least my experience. And, um, nonetheless, so I like to delve into every single meaning and understand it and look at the fourth and fifth meaning and go, well, that's interesting. I never thought of it that way. I find it has been my Bible for years. So to
Wow.
backtrack, so the nurturing, the seeing, the caring, I loved that work. And I translated that and my inside sales and my performing, needing a script to memorize, but then working without a script
Mhm.
and knowing how to close a deal. The problem with people who want to do work and want to be on TV and sell is that they may be great speakers, but they don't know how to connect. And so the job that it was the combination of all of my talents. And I was grateful every time I was there. When you spoke earlier, you spoke about, when I do interviews, I don't write questions. I'm like Oprah. I was thinking, well, you didn't say that, but I was going,
Yeah,
that's what Oprah does. Pardon me.
I love it.
And you said, and you go into a vortex. When you said that, exactly the same.
Mm.
I would go on. And the stress of having to sell $10,000 a minute, and if I'm not tracking $40,000 within 4 minutes,
Wow.
I'm gone. So how do you do that when you don't see someone's eye color? How do you do that when you can't ask them questions? How do you do that? And again, yes, I was the person on the camera, but there was a whole league of a team behind us pre-promoting. I mean, but we are there live, and when the shows go really well, nobody shook my hand. When the shows were not good, the first thing was, take the pearls off, straighten the hair. It must be you.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
But I didn't even, I was so into the middle in the vortex. So it was a great moment in my professional time.
Mhm.
So your question is, how has all of that helped you? And where we are now with why am I still here?
Mhm.
And do you have any more questions, or do you want me to
I want you
go?
to keep on going, my girlfriend. I'm loving it because it's a beautiful flow. And I'm just thinking about our conversation yesterday about the rebirth and how things are it's beautiful. It's beautiful all that you've been through. And then this 107-year-old in your 20s allowed you to see that wisdom, everything is so perfectly timed to be able to remember that now at 58. It's just this is the essence of how things get healed and how things evolve into the next phase. So it's wonderful.
I love how I wanted to give you that opportunity because I was going, okay, I need a few moments to just kind
Yeah,
of
do it.
find my
Yeah,
center. And I knew that you would do that. And I
yeah.
think, interestingly enough, I love the idea of the umbilical cord or the abundant pole where it's
Mhm,
centered and that's part of prayer. That's part of, any practice that one does that is a flow. So the thesis, why am I still here?
mhm.
And frankly, it's not about me, but let's use me as this sort of
Example. Yeah,
example,
yeah.
this experiment, if you will, although it's not an
Mhm,
experiment. At the age of 57, I discovered that I'd been sexually abused. And I was the age of 6. And my eldest sister, at the age of 10 and a half, also was by a very close family member. So if we think about that, that's 5 decades of holding something in traction.
mhm.
I mentioned this because a very close friend of mine right now is recovering from shoulder surgery. And for 6 weeks, he has to be in traction. And it made me sort of wonder, is there a way that when people discover, as I am right now, is there a way, in simple terms, through spirit, through all, and of course there is, but I'm interested in keeping it simple to allow whoever goes through, as I am.
Mhm.
What stage am I at? What can I do to ensure that I am healing at the stage I'm at? Last
Mhm.
discovery, huge. It was
Yeah.
huge. I had
Yeah.
anger. I had denial. I couldn't believe it. I felt small. I went depressed. I went into a cave. I did all of that. But if I look at the pragmatism of somebody who just gets shoulder surgery as an example,
Yeah.
the direction from surgeons and the experts are, we want you to stay still
Mhm.
because it's time for healing. And we need you to be in traction because it's time for healing.
Yeah.
Healing, even if you stay still, healing is an energized energy. But if we're so busy covering up, we
Yeah.
don't have time for healing.
It's so powerful. And you said to me too, I'll share a little bit of the details of that because we had this conversation yesterday. Two things are coming up for me. Three things are actually coming up for me. I'll keep the third for later. So with, it,
Okay.
this is us, Allie. This is us. So one of the things you mentioned to me too about your dear friend with the shoulder surgery yesterday was that how the experts were saying we like the bruising. We want to see the bruising. So in our life, that's such an analogy is that we want to pass through the bruising. Let the bruising bruise. Let it bruise. Let the healing happen. Sit for a moment. Let the bruising show up. Don't be afraid of the purple and black bruising. That's just part of the whole. Right. And so I love that you said that as well, too. And the other thing I was on the show for season two, depending on where it airs, it could be just right before this fabulous conversation. I was talking to an expert around alcohol and working with, it could be alcohol, insert whatever addiction or whatever numbing agent, coping mechanism, is that a bit like that wanting to just get it out of the way. Like, I don't want to deal with this. I want to keep on walking forward. Give me a bottle of wine, give me, Netflix, give me scrolling Instagram, whatever that is. And that is that traction of like trying to run away from the problem, right? Instead of allowing the magical, I would say the compassionate healing opportunity for us to allow it to just to be what it is. And so even going back to how you started this conversation is being okay to chat about it right now when that realization, that level of awareness that happened to you only a year ago of something so deep that you're able to sit here so raw and it's so new, not waiting till you're in your mid 60s to say, okay, now I can talk about it. The amount of healing that can take place by just being in it right away. And it's different for everyone because again, I always say, please, that these are conversations, these are not opinions, these are not, nothing for you to run away with. Just if something resonates with people's hearts, it gives them a permission to look at things from a different perspective. And I think that's the most important thing is how can we shift our perspective? It doesn't take away the trauma or the hardship or the struggles, but if we can have a perspective that can come from a place that's higher frequency, the healing has, the bruising can also be healed maybe more effortlessly and without so much grasping onto it, right?
100%. And thank you for bringing that. I love, I've always loved the spiritual and let's call it the tangible,
Mhm.
living together and understanding that there is, I always see it as the river of spirit that always like, I used to be a competitive swimmer. And I
Yeah.
use this analogy a lot where we're all in our own lanes. I'm
Yeah.
doing backstroke 50 meter. Guy next to me is doing butterfly. He's doing 1,000 meter. We're all in the same lanes doing different things, but we share the same water.
Oh, wow.
And I really love that image. I very much live in that world. But as you know, I get the opportunities. And actually, Diane, um, even though it was so sad when I discovered in my body, because our body keeps all
Mhm.
trauma, it keeps memory. Um, when I discovered it, even though I was just shocked, afraid, felt alone, defensive, all of those things, which are perfectly normal.
Yeah.
There was this voice that said to me, crisis, opportunity.
Wow.
We know, well, many of us know, and of course, there's a great extrapolation, which I don't have, but I do know that there is a Chinese term that is used a lot in business, that the same symbol of crisis is also opportunity.
Yeah.
So even though I was just shocked and scared and why and what and all the things, I knew that that was something. So last year was an interesting time.
Mhm.
The other thing I wanted to do is, I'm not a vendetta person. I've just never been in that. I wanted to chase it all with love as much as I could, because I actually wanted to get through it quickly, like you talked about the bruising.
Yeah.
And the point about the bruising is interesting when you brought it up. And the nurse said, I remember inquiring, well, why is, like, after 2 weeks of him being in traction and another 4 weeks, why do you want to see bruising? Like, don't you want to see that it's gone? And she said, no, because if I see at 2 weeks that it's gone, means that he's been using this arm, that the blood has started to circulate in a way and it started
Mhm.
to absorb. Not in 2 weeks. That
Wow.
is not going to heal. And so what you and I hope I see it already, is how can we create a simple visual like that? So when people are going through trauma, it doesn't have to be what I've been through, and I'm still moving through it.
Mhm.
But is there, as much as time, us humans make up time. So, maybe it's not necessary, but my
Mhm.
initial thought was, is it possible to come up with something that can help us know how to manage it? Oh, you can't. Anyway. So,
And it I was going to say too, and I love that because it's different for everybody, but if we can use tools that can lay a foundation no matter what that is. So because your trauma and your experience is quite deep, and it's, as you'd said, 50, like 5 decades of repressed, like not even understanding it. And then there are some people that, it doesn't matter what level or extreme it is. How can we create a safe space where we can work together to allow that bruising to be okay and the timing to be okay, and not judging, well, she healed faster, and why is she already doing that? But I'm still, why do I feel like I'm at the beginning and she seems over it? And I think that's the other thing too that happens in our life, no matter what we're talking about, is that, and again, we know this is, comparison is the thief of joy. So imagine
yes.
comparing your trauma timeline. Oh my God. That that's another trauma. And now you have to heal that. You have to heal the trauma and the timeline, judgment of yourself. How
Yes.
that is terrifying. I want to ask you something that also came up just as you're sharing is, and that this is, I've never heard your story by anybody else, but this is not the first time that I hear, of course, that people have have realizations like way after an experience happens. Many, and I'm not a psychologist clearly, but there's so many reasons why that may be, in terms of, our body protects us, our mind protects us. And so I would love to ask you, and this is just a vulnerable ask. If what would come up for you then if you think about 5 decades later when this came to light for you? Do you believe, and can you extrapolate on this, is like extrapolate on, do you believe that we're meant to find out only when we're meant to find out? Everything is on purpose? Like, do you feel something that you can share where you can say, I could see why this is now happening, and not right after the death of my mom or the death of my sister or before my sister's passing? Or, is there anything that comes up for you that makes you feel a little bit, at peace with why 57?
Um, excuse me.
And I will share as well too with your coughing, which is interesting, is yesterday we talked about, I want to share this while, you center yourself, is we talked yesterday about, our work here on this earth plane, and we all come with sacred contracts. And yours and mine, a lot of it has to do with, breaking the oppression of our voice. And so, as we discovered yesterday with our conversation, your coughing then all of a sudden dissipated through the healing of the owning the conversation and owning and having compassion and shedding light into that. So it reminded me of that yesterday as we share on stage today. I think it's beautiful. Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully my memory is good. And thank you for bringing
And
that up.
I'll restate the question.
Okay.
Can you feel a purpose for you that brings comfort and clarity and intention as to how this unfolded for you to have this realization around your path at 6, only at 57? Like at 57 is when this came clear to you. Do you see why? Is there something that you say, I could see why, and what I get to do from this in my next rebirth of my life?
So why now? Why am I still here? Back to the earlier
Yeah.
thesis. Yes, I absolutely can. And I wondered about it when my mom died. Wondered why, those same questions. Then I wondered about it with my sister. My sister and I were both bulimics. My sister she killed herself, but she died of anorexia. And from what I understand, and with therapy that I did have when I lost both my parents, or lost my mom and my sister, the therapist, who was an excellent and one of the top therapists, certainly in Toronto, she had mentioned that I am textbook abused, from a very close family member. And I just ignored it. I just went, okay, now you're seeing me better. Now you're coming up with other things. Like I just was shields up. I remember that, I remember those signposts. So when I did realize finally, I remembered these little blocks and going, yeah, I'm not ready. It's like the story about getting up to the pearly gates and going, what, God, why didn't you help me with this and this challenge and that? Well, I did. I gave you a paddle. I gave you a motorboat. Yeah. I mean, you weren't at the place to recognize it.
Right.
So I recognize it because my entire family now are not here on this plane, but I still want to be connected in some way. So there's this power of how can I open up my mind and my chakra, my heart, which really I've worked with shaman and she has said on more than a few occasions, we got to open up your heart. There's just like nothing going. It's just, so that's been one of my interest in just opening up. And I think the intention of moving past what this is, and realizing it's a conduit to the worlds that most people don't know about. But everybody has the chance to believe in it when they have dreams, when they have deja vu, when they have moments of, I'm sure I was here before, or they're so close to someone in their life. It's like, we've known each other in a past life, and just move on.
Yeah.
Those things are so beautiful. Some people are interested because of trauma. It's that crisis and opportunity. And I realized that for me on this earth, from this day forward, my role is to stop carrying on of this generational depression that is on both sides of my family. Generational sexual abuse. My mom's grandfather did it to her son, her sister. This generation of power that has no power, but certainly is scary, and usually comes on people who are vulnerable and tiny and have no voice. And I just need to find that voice so that I can help my linear and big family stop it so that we can further. Hi, baby.
Angel. She likes to show up once in a while.
I love the tail. It's just the plume.
It's just, she's like, yeah, I'm here. The angels are always here.
Well, so that's it.
Yeah.
And interesting before we, because yeah, all I'm going to say is this. Every time we have spoken about this, and might I say, and you've said, this is the first time I've actually talked about it out
Yeah.
loud. And remember yesterday I said, I think I want to do a pseudonym.
Yeah.
I'm nervous about sharing my story.
Yeah.
Because it's vulnerable. You're back in the
Hmm.
sling.
Yeah.
When does that sling come off, and when do I start moving?
Wow.
And here I am giving it a shot, trying to move, take the sling off, realizing
Mhm.
that there's vulnerability, but there's such strength in vulnerability.
So
If
much.
we have an awareness of what we're doing and why it is strong. If we
Mhm.
come in and just say, I'm feeling very vulnerable today, and not understand why and the intention behind still doing it. Those
Mhm.
are the strengthening things.
And I love that, because as I was hearing your story of coming out into this, and owning owning your own essence, right? So there was no pseudonym because you came as Alli Mang. And I was like, I was waiting for you to just permit yourself to do that.
This
I
is a
can't,
big test, by the way.
yeah. But I can't help but to see your whole journey on this timeline as 58-year-old Alli Mang. And it gives me just shivers to think about this. So I'm feeling the energy of you through your life of, being successful on stage for what you were doing, and then, working with musicians, working as an expert, helping with storytelling, working with authors to share their story. Your role intentionally having been, how have you supported other people to bring their light up into this world? And then as I'm sitting here with this like death and rebirth card, the birth, death, and rebirth, I mean, it's mind blowing to me, but not at the same time. I just feel like this is now, it's all of that goodness and all of that beautiful mentorship strategist, all of those things that you gave to other people. Now you're like, okay, now is my time, as you sit here almost just like ready to then bring everything that you've gifted other people to, now it's your time to shine. And that's that where I feel that rebirth. And the first part of that for you being that level of awareness and that ownership of your story, and coming from that place of vulnerability, but coming from that place of warrior strength that is carrying that vulnerable Alli, that little girl. So that's, and then I also feel that feminine masculine energy, that you can own that healthy feminine and masculine energy that doesn't have to hide anymore. Right. And that permits others, myself included, Alli, to not hide. Because why not lock arms and hold hands and like create that energy of collaboration with the collective that's only going to allow the whole universe, because we know this, they've measured heart coherence. That's the one thing that just, it blows my mind, is that they've measured the coherence, the heart coherence of the earth through meditation, through love, through collaboration, through contribution. And so your moment to claim this here, on with me, and then with this, is the heart coherence frequency automatically gets elevated, right? So it's just such a beautiful witnessing to hear this from you. And it was not meant to happen during the shopping channel days. It wasn't meant to happen during the Grammy award winning, collaboration with John Robinson. Like, it wasn't meant to happen. That was meant to those things were meant to happen then, and now this is meant to happen now. And that's why am I still alive here today, like as you'd mentioned. Such a beautiful rebirth.
Thank you. I mean, my goodness, it's such a healing time to
Mhm.
be in your space, Diane, and what you've created. Um, I think that all women need to have a voice, because we just have so much inside to share. This is not male badging by any stretch,
Nope, not at all.
but it's not even a but. And,
And
and our expression is just over the top healing in every possible way. And there has been, through society, the masculinity, the divine masculinity has been at the forefront.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that our world, as we know it here, it's through the femininity, the divine
Mhm.
femininity. And yes, I love how you talk about, well, there's a balance, of course, and it's that both. Um, but I'm grateful to, I don't know, Friday I had an intuition. Text Diane. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think another part of the human opening up, and I really am a I'm not an experiment, but I'm sort of a test tube, because I'm willing to really learn. I really want to learn and be
Yeah.
free and be happy. Somebody said
Mhm.
to me a few days ago, "What's going to make you happy?"
Mm.
And I did not have an answer.
But it's beautiful though, because that unknown allows you to just be in curious mode, right? So you don't have to say, and I love that because I was saying, as you're saying that, I'm like, wow, what a strong question to be asked. And in that, just saying, wow, I wonder, I wonder. And then in that wondering, because we are frequency, and I mean, I'm very into the law of energy, and I'm also and I do firmly believe that we've come here with a sacred contract. It's definitely sometimes I wonder, and I always say this, I'm like, I must have signed it hammered on tequila, smoking cigarettes, being like, sure, I'll sign here, sure. And then I'm like, what was I thinking? Oh my gosh, I did not read the fine print. Someone duped me, right? And at the same time, how magical is it to be able to be given these opportunities? And again, it is not to discredit the trauma that people go through, but if we can have these conversations, it dissolves the stigma of judgment, perhaps, or the aloneness that people can feel. It gives that opportunity to sit in an empowered energy, not a victim energy, not a woe is me, not a me too. Oh my God, nothing, but just like, what can we do from here? What do we get to do from here to set the stage for helping other people? And the other thing I want to share with you as you're talking about masculine and feminine is I also do believe in we all have a role. So I have masculine and feminine in me. It's not a gender thing at all. However, when we are in our feminine as women, we also then we have that invitation for the men to be in their masculine, which is also their birthright to shine in as well, and also honoring their feminine energy, which is really important. One thing I learned I want to share with you too that just came to me, and I shared it once on a podcast somewhere, is when I went to this beautiful event called The New Human in BC last October. It changed my life. And it was so beautiful. There's a gentleman named Dr. Kevin Preston who put this on. It's every year. And we had Dr. Zach Bush there. And they also had this couple that were on stage talking about sacred relationship. And they had mentioned that, and this is something that I've learned as well too. And again, this is not advice for anybody in a relationship because everyone is different, but it's relationship with anybody. But when you hold someone in a specific energy, it permits them to play that role. And then it also goes the same as if you're holding them in a negative energy or holding them in an accusatory energy. It's not to say that you have the power over how someone behaves because that's absolutely their responsibility.
Yep.
However, there is also a magic in holding a space for someone's highest light. It's always going to be a good idea. Right. And then whatever that happens, you have to release it and you don't attach to the outcome. But I think in that as well, too, it comes to our own light. If you say, Alli, I'll give it as an example, you holding yourself at the highest light in this experience that you've had allows you to shine at the highest for whatever service that's meant to come from you because of that and
Mhm.
from that beautiful energy, right? Instead of, the opposite being contrast is why me? What did I do wrong? I'm not good enough, and all those negative tapes that are only going to harm the even worse the trauma, but also doesn't give you an opportunity to have that path ahead of you to
Mhm.
serve from that place of how can I support the collective through my experience, if that makes sense. And so I think it just comes back to self-love, self-compassion, holding that space for ourselves, putting ourselves on stage in a way that can allow us to shine and just have that. It's like the law of assumption. I just
Mm,
assume the greatness rather
mm.
than I assume the worst, right? That's what I'm feeling today as you're sharing
I
your
love that.
story, how you've come to share your story. I could feel that shining essence from you of wow, what is going to happen now? Like the
Mhm.
wonderment that I have and the ability for us to be working together as well, because I know we talked about that coming together as women.
Oh, yes, I love all that. How much time do we have left?
We
I
There's no
want
such thing as time, Allie. You already shared that with the world.
I know, obviously. But you see, I come from the shopping channel world where there's always
Yeah.
time. There's a
Yeah.
countdown timer.
We
So I
have
just
the perfect amount of time to get through everything that we need today. And then
okay,
there's,
my beautiful.
always room for more. So,
Wonderful. Because I have a thought, and it is the biggest frustration for me, as I have gone from this discovery of a tangible, of a human issue where I'm dealing with it on a human level. At the beginning there was anger, and there was and depression, and crying, and can't, and hopelessness, and all of these things.
mhm,
And I know my sister went through it as well. And the one thing that seems to be happening as I start to rise and to love the entire group that was a part, the group of human skins that was a
mhm,
part of that particular experience. But it isn't just, those people, the perpetrator, my sister, who was also a part of it, it's the generations before. So these
mhm,
are the kinds of things that really you need to think about. You can't blame just one person, and you can't blame this person who was defenseless. So where do you go? You get caught in this human world of error. And I was thinking, and I know this to be true, that disease of any kind separates. It
mhm,
separates us from man, because all of a sudden, anyway, don't need to explain that. But it separates us from even grabbing onto our heart center, even for a moment, because we go into fear mode and protective mode, and we block. It's how this human little brain has been created, which is why it is so important. It's so important for us warriors to open up, and why being attracted to people like yourself is so important, because it lifts, and when we get into a healing mode, those human experiences just dwindle into nothingness, because they are nothingness. It
mhm,
doesn't mean your human experience is nothingness. It is stepping stones to bigger and more glorious experiences.
mhm.
And that's where the brilliance of this crisis and opportunity. I remember my dad for years and years, it was one of his biggest statements of all. My sister would come home and, so and so doesn't like me. And, from these schoolgirl issues that
Oh,
we all
yeah.
had. And what am I going to do to, you know, I can't think of another that's seeming mundane, but seems so important. My dad would say, well, are you ever lucky to have this problem?
Wow, yeah.
And we hated him for it. It's like, such
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Um, so, the idea of this dichotomy of dis-ease separating, and the
Mhm,
love and the unification, and really keen into the collective unconscious, which you are so wonderful, not only as a medium yourself, but you're also great at explaining it, which is wonderful, because we don't have the that you do. Maybe
mm,
we will, or maybe, it doesn't matter, but the explanation of it just always gives us a little more. It's really exciting. I have to
mm.
say, you did mention the voice thing.
Yes.
And I will just say this as maybe a final point, and then you can take it wherever you want, or do. But So I've had a dry cough for, I'm going to say at least 10 years, at least. Dry cough. And we did get it scoped. We went all of the physical ways. Now, I had very major surgery where I had a very large tumor taken out of the mesenteric wall of my small intestine. And that happened in 2010. And the reason why I remember that specifically is because my healing was during the Olympics that Vancouver hosted, which
Yeah,
is
I was there.
Is it
I was there for the Olympics in 2010. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, crazy.
So it was an interesting time. Now, that healing actually was a year-long healing because of the trauma. I had 70 stitches and, and blah, blah. It turned out to be benign, which was wonderful, and all of those good things. But that was a paddle, by the way. That was a signpost that I missed.
Wow.
And when I started to really realize about the abuse that happened to me, I realized that that was part of my hysterectomy but I didn't see it as that because I wasn't ready. I was having to deal with this. So it's very interesting, the signposts we see. But to go back to your point, do you think you would have recognized it? Or why do you think these signs come, but we don't recognize it? Timing and patience. Timing and patience is the answer. But what I wanted to say was this. So I had some physiological reasons why I might have some damage here, dry cough from an intubation from 4 hours in surgery. And then for 8 days, I had something in my nose that would feed me. So there was a lot going on in this area. So legitimately, one would say, well, maybe there was some damage. There could have been. And I kind of held to that and just let it go and let it go. People would comment on, well, you should really get that fixed and cortisone and all these other things. But the interesting thing is I've always just done, yes, but I've just always known that it is, I need to find my own voice.
Yeah.
And I never had fear about it. I lost my voice when I spoke at my mom's funeral. I was speaking, then I also sang at her funeral. And I lost my voice 2 days before that.
Oh my goodness.
I was like this, couldn't speak. Went up on the podium, couldn't speak. I was singing with my then husband. And actually, he said, "Are you going to be okay?" And I went, and I just said, this is not about me. This is about my mom. She loves this song. Whatever's going to come out of my mouth comes out of my mouth. Sang like a bird.
Wow.
Like not even any of that. Just, it was gorgeous, if I say so myself. But I realized the divinity about that.
That's brilliant.
And Diane, and I'm not exaggerating any of this, as soon as it was done, same thing happened when my sister died. Lost my voice. I didn't do anything. It was just such a tragic, sad time. There was nobody speaking. I think maybe my father spoke. I don't even remember. But when my dad died, it was all me. I was his number one caretaker for years and years. I took that on. And it was my pleasure. Our parents raised us. I had the opportunity. And I think it was part that he's my last family member. So I felt really it was important. And I'm the best caregiver there is. So anyway, at his funeral, I did the eulogy. There was no singing. I had some of my other friends sing and stuff. And it was actually during COVID. So there wasn't that many people, but it was simulcast and all of that.
Yeah.
I did his eulogy. And I couldn't speak. And I thought, well, I've been here before, so I'm just going to trust that my message has nothing to do with me, that I'm the conduit of spirit. And this needs to be formally communicated. This tribute to a man that did a lot, and spiritual man and all the rest. And as it happened again, brilliant, loud voice, strong, big, emoted, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then it was done. my friend, I almost fainted. My friend came up on stage and took me down carefully. No voice. So I think what is making me not only go, wow, what a trauma. Wow, what's going on?
Mhm.
Wow, why am I still here?
Yeah.
And I think that this has been the manifestation to help me find that and to connect with people like yourself, where
Mhm.
we're just this vortex and there's other beautiful people. And to find the people that are maybe squashing you down, maybe you don't get rid of them because they're part of your life and they're part of the tapestry
Yeah.
of your beautiful expression of life. But
Yeah.
maybe you find other opportunities that don't give those people as much of your time
Exactly.
and you
And
love them through it.
And you do, and you get to choose, right? And we could still have love. There's levels of love. I mean, love is limitless, but I believe too, there's a couple of things. So as you're sharing that, one thing that came up for me that I think it's important that I've learned in my life is the acceptance of experiences. So as you're
Mm.
sharing everything about your voice and then being able to, when called to show up, and I feel that you're actually being called now to show up with a consistent voice to share your story, but the one of the things that means a lot to me in my life, is contrast. We
Mm.
can't see the opportunity without the crisis. And so I feel like that's why both are, the same symbol is that they're both the same. They're just different energies around the same thing. So I always say like without contrast, you can't see the light. You can't see, Kyle Cease, one of my amazing mentors that I follow that I was blessed to see in LA last June. He says, it's interesting because the darkness is always there, and it's when you have that little glimpse of light, you could see, the dust in the air. But it takes both to be able to be honored. So you can't like contrast it's inevitable. So instead of fighting contrast, saying thank you contrast for showing me this beauty. Like we wouldn't know love if we didn't know pain. We wouldn't know connection if we didn't know loneliness. We wouldn't recognize it. So I feel like this conversation, when I'm thinking about the overall scope of what's coming to me, and this is just my own experience, is just honoring the contrast so that we can heal the collective.
Oh, say that one more time, darling. That was gorgeous.
Honoring the contrast so we can heal the collective. Yeah, and that's what's coming to me. And your voice, shining its brightest light after being, going like this in and out is I just feel like that, and it's how you connected with me. I think it was 3 days ago, and I was like, hard yes, 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 yes. Because I'm going to Thailand in a day and a half. And I'm like, no, we need to do this. I literally, where's the sliver of time? Like, we're not waiting till April. This is meant to happen now. And what is meant to happen because of that, no such thing as time. But I do, Alli, I believe that this is the catalyst for so much, for us to work together, for people to come together. And we don't know what that even looks like. We don't have to ever know. The unknown, and being curious with the unknown is that receptive mode and saying, whatever's meant to be from this will be. We just need to show up in our light and allow ourselves that compassion to be self-loving, right? And yeah, so it's a beautiful witnessing of your story. I also wanted to ask you too, just as we go through, I want to touch on, if you can give a couple of examples. I think this is a kind of intricate question. Is when you think about the
I
certain
need
things.
a pen. Hang on.
Sure. I'll make it as
Okay.
simple. I'll make it simple because it's just this is what I feel like I want to ask you. So is there a synergy around the work that you've done? So whether it's, sales, working with authors, storytelling, music with the Grammys, is there something that you can pull from all of them that you feel is a essence for you to pull moving forward? Like, is it, and I'll give you like a strength or an experience that you found was simultaneous to all of those experiences, because we always we do with who we are, right? So I've had many jobs in my day, when you're talking about being sales and steel, I'm like, I worked in gold mining, I worked in real estate marketing, I was in HR, I was in, fashion, all of those things. And when I look at all of those roles that I played as Diane, I brought something from who I am to those roles. So I was doing something with who I am. Is there something that comes up for you of who Alli Mang is
Oh,
that showed up in all of those that you can ground in for moving forward as you bring up this beautiful project that I will be part of. What is
yes, you
that
will be
about?
part
What
of
is
it.
that about you and who you are that you've brought to the stage and now will be moving forward?
I think that as only you can do, very profound question. And my authentic answer, I already, it's so funny in this whole thing I was coming up with, well, if I was on the panel of blah, 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 I'd come up with this brilliant blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
But that's not what we're doing. I've done that my
No.
whole life. I don't even do that. I don't need to come up with pontificating this, you know. But what I would say the common ground is, and it goes back to, this is the thing. I just discovered something very traumatic as a young little tyke that I've been keeping, that this shell has been keeping in traction because I was not ready to deal with the magnificence
Mhm.
of what holding something back does to the human experience. And only now do I have a voice. Only now can I use my entire voice. I am telling you, a day ago, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Wow.
So, we get to actually see and experience it. And I'm not putting any of this on, I told you, but I was hoping with what we were doing today that my voice would be stronger by the end.
Mhm.
And I'm excited to see that and to feel it. And I go, thank you. The reason I say thank you is back to your point. As a little girl, I was in a place that I felt everybody was better than me. Everybody had better things to say, even though I excelled as an athlete in a couple of sports, including competitive skating, competitive skiing. I was a synchronized swimmer. I specialized in butterfly. I really loved those sports and excelled in them. I will talk one day about the figure eight that you asked me to do. I spent 14 years doing figure eights as a
I
figure
mean,
skater,
that's so crazy.
and it was really interesting. But
Wow.
I will continue.
Yeah.
So understanding when we have just such deep trauma, and it's not a club you want to be in, but I think that we've all experienced something that deeply hurt us. So it doesn't need to be my story. My story is my story.
Mhm.
But being in a position where my voice was taken away at such an early age because I was protecting myself as best I could. It kept repeating through my life, so I never was able to have great, loving relationships with men. And that was a signpost that I never got. But I was like, well, maybe I'm just damaged, all that stuff. So we get to today and your question, and the through line is, I have been searching for the right story, the right person, the right to help me understand why I still am not happy.
Mm.
And I've been giving them the power, their story, the power. And it's been a wonderful adventure. I have met the most interesting people and worked with the most brilliant thinkers and
Mhm.
brilliant people on my quest to edify them and to hear about their stories and how can I learn. And I have learned. But now, today, as I have found my voice, the essence of it, through the pain, through trauma, I get to finally share my voice through
Mhm.
tears, through the bass, through the soprano, through the laughing, through the crying.
Mhm.
And it's almost as if, you know what? I got all my research done.
You did.
And here we are today. And
Yeah.
let's go. Let's
Mhm.
fly. Let's have fun.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as mistakes. This is the other thing I realized. No such thing.
Mhm. Well, you said you're an expert at the butterfly, and my favorite analogy is well, it's not even an analogy, but my favorite, you know, story is the story of the butterfly. How in the crystallization of the butterfly, if you try to, if it looks like it's struggling because it's struggling in the cocoon to create the butterfly, and you can't help it because it'll die. It needs to go through every bruise, every crevice, every move, every all of those things, and sit still for as long as it needs, and then the butterfly comes out of that crystallization. And so as you were saying that, I'm like, of course you're the expert at the butterfly because you're literally about to fly. And the butterfly is the story that is the essence of what is coming through you right now. So it's just you can't, you've always been the butterfly, but now this is like the new wings that are popping out of this cocoon for you. So you're taking all of that research, all of that experience, all of that synchronized swimming, all of all of those things, and now you get to just be, like literally just be. And in that inspired action will take place, but just from a state of being, not from a state of doing, because you've done your whole life. You've done it for other people, and I've witnessed it for the under a decade that I've known you, in and out of that. And so it's such a beautiful whew, witnessing for you right now as we, it's
Well,
it's
may I
amazing.
thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you. My
Not at
apologies.
all. Please do. I could talk. You know me.
I'm gonna tell you why I'm crying, although I don't need to explain it, but I will because you mentioned butterfly. Now, I haven't really been a butterfly. I like butterflies. You take me to the thing, we've got
Yes.
but my sister was a huge, huge butterfly person.
Oh my goodness.
And part of my interest in finding the freedom from what we both went through. And she had so much courage by allowing her bipolar to be her voice.
Mhm.
There is another dimension of people. They and they're so misunderstood. And she couldn't continue, but the brilliance she had. And since I've been discovering this new world, I've like done this, gone, girl, thank you. I got it. We're gonna
Mhm.
figure this out. Thank you.
Mhm.
And I called it an 8 or a serpentine, which is what figure skaters do. You called it a butterfly. And at the bottom of my sister's grave, she's a beautiful painter, and it's just a gorgeous. If you if you think grave sites are beautiful, this is a gorgeous one. Is a stone butterfly.
Oh my goodness.
So she's here, and
Yeah.
she's thanking us.
Oh, what's her name?
Leanne.
Leanne. Whew. Wow.
That's
We knew we didn't know where this was gonna go, and then it always goes to the I'm honored, Allie, I'm honored.
I just feel so thrilled to be able to free her. It's not her fault. It was not her fault. It's not my fault. And it's not even the fault of the perpetrator. Ultimately, this is the thing we need to realize. It's
Mhm.
awful. And I don't want to get into a debate because
Yeah.
that's not what we're doing. We are in a realm of safety and discovery
Mhm.
because there's so much more to
Yeah.
learn about.
Yeah. It's beautiful. I'm so grateful, Allie. I feel with you, with Leanne here is just this completion of this beautiful conversation, not the ending, but the completion of this for this. And I also do believe that you and I, collaborating moving forward, there's so much that we are going to be unfolding and unpacking together and offering the world in the best way that is meant to be for us as we've come back together in each other's lives as women. I do believe, and again, it's not a gender thing, but it's just, I do, in my experience in the last under a year alone, if not 5 years, 10 years, but mostly under a year, is this rekindling of feminine frequency that's happening. And so one of the things when you reached out to me literally 3 days ago, I'm very much into my like everyone has intuition, so I'm not special. I'm aware of where mine stands, and as soon as you did, I was like, yes. There was such a knowing, and there's no logic to that knowing, and so I'm just really excited for you and I, and those that get to be a part of us moving forward. Whatever that ends up to show up for us, with the essence of Leanne as well too, and the essence of others, and who they may be wanting to walk alongside, who may not be on this realm. I really believe in that. I believe in that wholeheartedly with all of my being. And I'm just so honored to be able to have sat here with you and have you share your heart, have you bring about your voice. You know, it's so eloquent how things have unfolded. And so I always ask my guests a question. It's never known, and even to the point that I don't know it until I ask it. But which is so much fun for me because like just bring it because I have no idea. I want to, I want to end with a question for you as we move forward together and you move forward on your own in this journey. And I'm looking at the backdrop that you have. You know, my question for you would be if you, in this moment now moving forward, only had to hold one belief in your heart to ground in that chakra staying open in your heart, what is that one belief for Alli that you get to carry with you from now that allows your voice to stay clear?
Atonement, or
Wow.
as I like to say, at one-ment.
Wow. Whew. I won't even ask you to share any more than that. I would love to leave it with that. But I will secretly ask you to go into your favorite book and find out the fifth meeting down from Atonement. I'm a writer,
And the
you're a writer.
synonyms, yes, I will create a full report for you.
Wow, that's a beautiful. I'm just being honest. If I'm honest,
I love it.
if I'm being
Well,
authentic.
I had to wear my mother's pearls and
Oh,
her
I
two
love it.
rings that do
Oh,
not fit me anymore. They used to fit me
oh,
on
that's
my
beautiful.
ring fingers, and now
Yeah.
they don't.
Oh my gosh. I have my mom and dad's when my parents passed as well. I have my mom and dad's 50th wedding band as
Mm.
well too. So it's a beautiful feeling to feel grounded in that. It's so I get the tangible, I get the spiritual, I get all of the realms. One thing to remind everyone is that we are spiritual beings in this meat suit, that we get to pretty up with pearls and pretty up with this and get handsome with the cologne and all of those things. And we are also living a tangible life. And I also believe that we have to remind ourselves of that. We are in this 3D dense. There is a chair, there are cards that help us. There is that birth, death, and rebirth. And so I just feel so honored. I'm going to share this beautiful picture with you. It's stunning. It's you. It's you. Yeah. It's you without the pearls. So thank you, Alli. I'm so grateful for you. This has been a sincere pleasure. I'm so honored for everything that you meant to share today and your heart. And I'm really excited for the projects and the collaboration that you and I are going to be creating moving forward. And so for my guests or my audience here, we will be having more coming up with Alli Mang and Lucy Smiles and Leanne and all of those that want to come along with us for the ride and the dance. Wear your pearls, bring all the things. And so, is there anything that you would like to share in closing or anywhere that we could find you? Is there anything special in your heart that you want to make sure that you have brought about this conversation before we take off today, Alli?
Ah, yes, story time with Alli Mang.
Let's do it. I would not, yeah, I would not expect anything less.
So this is not this is a book that I wrote about my mom, My Force of Life, How to
Mhm.
Live Through the Loss of a Loved One. And I opened the book with this quote: "The rung of a ladder was never meant to rest upon, but only to hold a man's foot long enough to enable him to put the other somewhat higher." And that's by Thomas Huxley.
Wow.
And I found it interesting as we close, the somewhat higher. It's such an empathetic
Wow.
word to add. He could have said higher, but he chose to say somewhat higher. And this is the essence. This is the specification. This is the focus that you have created with your show, with the way you express yourself. You know, you could say, never mind the somewhat, but the somewhat is where we live every day. And the somewhat allows us to find our voice within the movement of the tangibles, as you say, and the spirit world, because this is where it is.
Yeah.
And I think that quote represents certainly my experience.
I love that.
I
love it. Everything is on purpose. Everything is intentional, because that somewhat allows us to, I would also say too, as you coughed, is the ladder of going somewhat higher. And sometimes to get somewhat higher, we actually have to go back a little bit. And maybe there's a dance, the ladder dance, right? Because all too often, and I do want to share this because it's coming to me, is all too often we feel like, well, we got there, if we go back, there's something wrong. Oh my God, what's wrong with me? How about everything is intentional? And I say this to my girlfriends, we can't just expect that was intentional, but I don't want that to be. So that's not intentional, but that's intentional. That relationship was intentional, but this one couldn't be possibly intentional. Everything is intentional. There's no question, right? And again, no opinions, and this is not advice from Lucy Smiles. I am not an expert and I'm not a doctor. However, I do believe that when we can actually look at every single thing on purpose, there's a lightness that happens, a frequency lift, and in that, more compassion to move forward in a healthy way where that dis-ease dissolves and then the connection happens through the dissolving of that dis-ease, that feeling, that energy, that emotion, or that thought, that negative connotation on something. So the coughing is on purpose. Everything is on purpose. You're on purpose. This is on purpose. I'm so grateful that you reached out to me, and I was like, oh, what? Yes. And that knowingness, I carry that with me and with us and with our partnership as we move forward in whatever facet that's meant to be. So I'm just so honored, Alli. You're so wonderful.
I am so honored as well. And
thank you.
You are wonderful. And I'm thrilled to be in your sphere again. And yeah, let's have some friggin' fun.
Let's do it. I will get my pearls. I have pearls too. I should have worn my pearls today. So I just want to also say to my amazing, amazing audience, as you know, and my tagline, and you'll hear it every time, is follow the magic that ignites your inner essence. And so today, I think we covered that basis for sure with you, Alli. And if anyone out there that's watching this feels an energy, feels a person's name, someone that you are being called to share this with, that is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. The Lucy Smiles Living Room podcast is a place that we can share the space of people who are living their best life, living their life, living through whatever experiences that they wish to share. And having this opportunity allows other people to feel like they're not alone. They get to share their stories well too. So please share this. You can find us on YouTube, all of the podcast platforms. I'm going to put all of Alli in the show notes, including the quotes that we shared. And until next time, thank you, Alli Mang. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.